Hello and welcome to WRLDS TV. Thanks for joining us today. We are streaming live from Black Frog Studios in Stockholm, and this is a show about tech, innovation, and business startups. Our special guest today is called Anders Varje. He is a serial entrepreneur, and he is 2 weeks away from building a sustainable city called Hubville. It's going to be epically huge. I'm nervous actually, because how can you possibly begin a conversation about building a city? Hopefully you will join in. You can drop in any questions and comments into the comments box on either Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We are standing by for your comments, so please get involved. Chris is also sitting in the control room, and he is on his way out. So let's move on to tech news. Hello.
Hi. Hi. Whoa, there I am.
There you are. There you are. How's it been going this week?
Oh my God, has it been a crazy week. It's been insane. It actually has been insane. And we lost a beautiful lens. Yeah, it crashed.
Wait, lost?
Actually, this camera, this very one, it just fell over.
Oh.
And it crushed the lens, so I'm you know.
Oh yeah,
I'm sad.
I don't look as attractive as usual. Actually,
no, exactly.
So
we had everything set. Everything was
right.
beautiful. You know, it was like popping, and now I'm like, oh God damn it! Why? Why?
Oh, we need to give a little campaign for Black Frog.
We have to take it back. We have to go and try to restore
bring it back.
Vintage lens. You know?
So this week happening in tech, you might like this actually. Speaking of lenses.
Oh, do I know? Oh my God, is that 3 cameras on one phone?
Oh, maybe. This is an iPhone.
Okay.
It comes out this year with a triple lens camera. So yes, you're exactly right.
A triple lens camera.
And includes an ultra wide angle lens that will expand the device's zoom range.
Okay.
It's going to be launched on the iPhone XX Max.
That is pretty awesome. They're pretty fast on that, because I realized, I mean, this has been some talk for about a year now. I think longer than that, to be honest, in the circles, how you can use several small of these cameras to really get some great, even better than some of the real cameras.
Oh, you bet you've seen the photos. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, I didn't know that iPhone was that hot on it though.
Yeah. They're really picking up the paces with their camera technology. Actually, they've expanded their the live photo mode where you can take multiple burst shots. They've doubled the time so that you can take double the burst, double the picture, double is good. Because
I feel like for the last 5 years, Apple to me has just been like any other cell phone company.
Right.
Like, oh, we have the latest camera, we have the latest this and this and this.
Vanity-based decisions.
It's like I do want to say though that this probably isn't one. If I didn't know more about this, I would be like, wow, are this how low they've gotten? Now they just have 3 cameras.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can draw from multiple sensors, though.
Yeah, I know. Technically, it is actually a huge step forward, and it is really good. And there's amazing things that you can actually do with your photos. But if I didn't know that, I would be like, oh my God, you have 3 cameras now? Can you invent something new? You're just adding more and more stuff. Why is this? But it is actually a lot better, actually.
I think it's cool. I used to have a clip-on for my phone. I used to augment it with additional camera lenses, actually. So I'm happy for this.
And Robert Mitchell says, love my Huawei P20 Pro with a 3-lens design.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Robert, can you post some pictures? I'd be curious to see if you nerded out. Maybe if you had some comparisons of the different lenses. Definitely comment.
Please, nerd us out.
I haven't actually seen the photos.
Help us out here, because I'm supposed to be a lot better at this. But yes, one thing that we should say and be clear on, this is not Apple is behind the train. At least they're doing it.
Yeah.
But they're behind the other players. Yeah. And they're definitely behind the experts at this.
Yeah. Huawei is the champ, I have to say.
Yeah.
Also the champ.
Cool.
Boston University.
If you find something cool, Robert, let us know, and we'll bring it up right here.
Yeah, do. Boston University. I think I've talked about BU before, actually.
Oh.
They're pretty cool. But they've just released some new research about how you can be more fair with your AI algorithms.
Fair with your AI algorithms.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's pretty
simple. How do you do that?
Well, Well, thank you for asking.
I think
yes,
you're not going to say anything. You're just going to leave it.
I'm just going to be like, they did, they just did it. Moving on.
Yeah.
No, they noticed that there was a lot of discrepancy between their data, specifically with gender discrimination.
Oh, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
That was big news when they had all of this sexist/semi-racist AIs running around doing weird stuff.
So that is a thing of the past, thanks to Boston U.
Okay, well, how did they solve it?
Well, they haven't solved it. They've just got some research coming out. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Google this. Google it. Google it.
Yeah, so
I don't have the answers. I'm just.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of AI, don't mind if I do. Today, actually, I was watching the games of StarCraft between Alpha Star, and the Protoss player Mana. Liquid Mana, member of Team Liquid. Really kind of cool because I'm into chess, right? So I really followed Alpha Zero, beat everyone in chess, and now there is an offshoot of that in AI. But this is really the first time that an AI, self-learned AI, is beating humans in limited information knowledge systems. And really this, I mean, StarCraft is really advanced. I'm not, if either you are already there or you're not, but it's a very advanced kind of game and it's crushing it. And it is, like, you can put it like this. Once they've mastered this game, basically, these sort of AI can master life.
Yeah.
Like, you can really put them in challenging situations where you have very limited knowledge about what's going to go on. A chessboard, you know all the pieces, you know all the rules. But in StarCraft, you actually really don't know what's going on. And you have to make very fast decisions based on even more kind of probabilities that you have no idea of what's going to happen, right? So that's really kind of cool. It's really taking quantum leaps right now, AI. And we're all going to get jobless. But it's okay. We can do music instead, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They can too.
Yeah.
They can too. That's whatever. I'm fine with it. I'm fine.
I'm over this.
I'm beyond it. You can read tech news, robots. Microsoft's gaming revenues are up 8%. 8%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty, this year.
Yeah, this quarter.
Not the last.
This quarter compared to last
whoa.
year's
Why?
Same period.
What did they do?
They released what is it? Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Game Pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically loot boxes.
Right, exactly. If you were watching Paul's episodes,
Paul.
you can,
Paul, you know,
you saw that coming,
what's
Paul.
Going on, Paul.
Very nice. Exactly. No, with those sales alone, they went up by 31%, actually.
Wow, that's pretty massive.
Yeah. So that's pretty inspiring.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure it's inspiring.
Oh.
I mean, at least a Game Pass. Okay, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna go with the strong maybe. I don't know enough to say, but yeah.
Okay, I'm into new revenue models.
Okay.
I'm into new.
Yeah, fair. As long as it's not gambling.
But there's money to be made.
Okay, fair. Gamble. Let's gamble.
I want to ask our guest what he thinks about gambling. Is there space for a casino in a sustainable city? I want to ask him right now. Shall we? Yeah,
you're gonna have to. The answer's gonna have. Yes, let's do it.
It's just gonna be okay. Ready? Are we ready for Anders?
Give me a yay!
Yay! Come on over.
I'm pumped.
Oh, there's a microphone.
Welcome.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm not the
you.
fast speaker though, as you are, but
we normally speak kind of fast in the first part of everything, and then we slow it down.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's get through this part and let's start talking about
we
it.
talk to this guy.
Yeah, we want him to come on.
But I'm dying to ask you: is there space for a casino in a sustainable city?
I can't say. We're sort of a co-creation. I mean, I don't know. Perhaps not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
First
haven't thought about it.
You haven't. Oh, that's why we're here.
Yeah,
we're going to ask you
Okay,
all the questions,
Those
aren't we,
difficult questions, yeah.
audience? Aren't we? Yeah. Okay. You have to tell us what a sustainable city is.
That's interesting because first, if you look at why should we build a sustainable city? Why should we? The background to this project is that sustainability is based on a misconception among people that you think that companies working with sustainability. A sustainable society would be less competitive, and the business life would be disastrous and so on, and the lifestyles in a sustainable society will be pretty bad, or you would need to sacrifice a lot. And I think it's the other way around. I think you could build a society which is sustainable, with a very flourishing business life, and that's what we want to capture in a new city. So that was the basic idea. To start a new city, you wouldn't inherit old structures, and you wouldn't have to inherit old things. You start from a blank page, and that's very interesting because first of all, it's very creative, of course, but also, how would a city look like? You could ask the audience, if you would create a city from scratch, from a blank paper, how would it look like in your mind? Would you have cars on the streets? Would you have some other way of transportation? Would you perhaps have plantations on the street? How would it smell in a society where you don't have combustion engines? How would you meet with other people? You said something about the guitars. You would all be jobless, and instead you would play the guitar. Perhaps we would meet in other ways in a society, of course, with less jobs. But if you would meet in a new society, how would you build it? And we have an idea, but also this is a co-creation project, and we're launching now. So the idea is actually a few years old, but now it's time to launch it.
Do you have a site-specific place to insert a city, or is this a vision?
It is a vision, but the thing is that it is a vision. But if you look to make a vision strong, it needs to be rational. Because if it's just a naive dream, it would be okay. That's it's a good, nice dream. But the thing is that you could defend it from a financial perspective. You would say, okay, if you could create a great lifestyle, if people would like to live here, and if you could create sort of a space for startups and companies. You were talking about entrepreneurship earlier, which sort of has the room for a competitive edge among corporations. Would it be possible to? I mean, in Sweden, we lack 700,000 households within the next 6 years, and you see this urbanization. Or that's one of the megatrends, the urbanization, and in this city, as we plan it, or at least in my vision right now, is somewhere in between 100 and 150,000 households, somewhere around 300,000 people. Okay. And of course, if we could build it in a way where you can have the big companies, because all the big corporations, they understand that sustainability is the future. You would need to go that direction because you have the Paris Accord, and you would have to shift your business models. And this is a very lengthy answer. I'm sorry, but it's kind of important for me to explain it. I listened to a lecture the other day from a guy called Kai Turek. He works at Max Hamburgers, and Max Hamburgers they're climate positive, or actually they have a negative carbon footprint, and they do this by planting trees and a lot of efforts with their internal structures. And the thing is, this costs them. If you take a guess, how much would it cost them as a part of their revenues? Take a wild guess. 0.25%. And it's tremendous. I mean, they can create great business, and it costs. It's just you would need to see it on business in sort of a different perspective. Of course, we would need new technology, we would need behavioral changes and so on, but we think it would be possible to create a society which has a strong business life and an attractive lifestyle. And if we can do that, we could create a lobby strong enough to actually build a city. That's a lengthy answer.
Yeah, no, but that's a great answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really good to go through it that a bit, because I think, I mean, we obviously talk a lot about the future on this show, and a lot of the problems that we actually talk about comes down to certain, when we start really going into how are we going to do it. There is huge issues with legacy systems. that is very hard to change. Like you point out, I mean, houses were built so long ago. You know, all of our infrastructure is old, and it's very, very hard to actually upgrade or update. And there is a lot of money in keeping things the way they are, and there's a lot of power in keeping things the way they are as well. So it makes it really hard, and to not even get into the problem we have with information. One of the biggest things, you know, one of the most important things that we're talking about is actually that transformation in information. The problem we have to create new societies and new stuff just because our information system is really old. And you know, like we talked about, you know, being able to use blockchain, owning your own information, for instance, stuff like this, being able to control that. We need kind of like that magical unicorn that shows people that this is possible. We need that kind of society, the idea of a society remade with the knowledge that we have today to be able to even show people that it's doable. And one of the biggest problems isn't really that it's whether it's doable or not, it's the fact that most people are still in a mindset that was constructed and beneficial 50 years ago, but really doesn't work today. And it's specifically not if we want to move forward on, you know, reaching the galaxy and you know, doing, you know, really wild, crazy stuff, because all of them are on the verge now, but we're not really going to be able to get there unless we actually change society at its fundamentals and a lot of these things. So I'm really interested in this project because I think the key thing has to be to show people that it's doable. Yeah, at least the audio is working. Woo-hoo. Yeah, that's good. Sometimes people don't tell us.
Okay.
Like,
that's too bad.
Like,
you're muted,
people,
guys.
when you're watching, I really implore you. Now, I can't really see the Facebook. You'll keep an eye on Facebook, but you can see my computer died. But you know, tell us if there is something you see or want to improve, or specifically if the audio isn't there. I mean, it helps us to fix the problem. Anyway, yeah, it's amazing and it's really good. And I think that we need these sort of projects. And I agree, Sweden is a pretty amazing place to see what we could do, you know, and how could we pioneer this and just show people that it's actually doable. And I think, like you said, a lot of companies would be very interested in this. And then you're always going to have to fight with the hordes of people that are saying, well, you did that's not 100% correct and blah, blah, blah. You know, like you have, there is always these people who tries to shoot down everything. But that's, you know,
you just have to ignore them because they will always be the same.
Yeah, they'll be the same. And internet kind of gives them a little bit of fuel on their fire, unfortunately. We were talking about that, I think, some time ago, and it's a good analogy. Like if you're out there doing anything in general, like, and it's from my own, because when I went to China, they have this dog eating festival, right? Okay. And in the southern China.
Okay. Yeah.
And they eat dogs. And I mean, I was a little bit, like I felt like I was a little bit against this. I mean, obviously, not that against. I mean, I was there living in the culture. I really like Chinese culture. That's by my tea set there, for instance. And I didn't really mind, but a lot of Westerners who came down, they were really upset about people eating dogs, and they were protesting, and they were doing all of this stuff, and everyone says, "What are you doing, guys?" Like there's no connect, right? And you know, they would eat any other form of meat, and in my mind, it's just a little hypocritical, right? But then at a certain point, you have to realize that a good initiative is just good. I mean, maybe there are other things that they could put their passion into, but the fact that they're trying to do something good is not a reason to shoot someone down, you know? Like, it's the same if people go like, oh, well, feminism, they don't care about men's rights. Yeah. And you go like, no. I mean, well, yes, a lot of them do. It's kind of in the relationship between men and women, but you know, you're spending your time complaining that other people don't solve an issue that you see instead of starting your own organization and trying to solve it. I mean, you're using your energy wrong, and that's also what I felt when I got upset about it. I'm using my energy the wrong way, you know. That's a very negative use of energy. Sorry, now I'm talking for a long time, but it's really interesting to hear that about this.
Actually, I don't know how to start addressing what you're talking about, because there's so many issues. But the thing you talked about the sort of doing good, and I think one key thing is that you would start by being transparent, and you were talking about the blockchain and so on. And I think in this particular case, when you talk about this sustainable city, it's not just a city, because we want to make we want to have our own governing, because we need to have our own governing in order to make it sustainable. So we will frame it as a sustainable economic zone. And an SEC, and you have it in China, you have it in Malaysia, and you have it in other parts in Ireland, and where you can have your local governing for taxation and so on. But the thing is that if you say, okay, we're doing this project and we're addressing a lot of different aspects on a society, and of course we will do things wrong, of course, because we're people, and we will admit our mistakes, and we will be transparent. But the thing is that when you start hiding your mistakes, and when you start to blame other people and so on, that's when people get, you know, when people start disliking you, because someone who is actually admitting to their mistakes, that's kind of okay. But the thing is also that you were talking about that some people will like this idea and some will not. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, and the thing is that when we look at this city, we can't look at it from this perspective. Instead we need to make something disruptive, and to really change society. We would start by looking at how would this city look like, and then we'd go towards it, instead of trying to go from the current situation, somehow navigate to the future, because it's better to create a really strong, a potent vision. And the people we will focus on are from sort of, if you look at the adaptation curve, you have perhaps you two are innovators, but we're focusing on the early adopters. That's our main target group. And if we have these laggards who doesn't like this kind of change, or they think that climate change is a hoax or whatever, we can't focus our efforts on these guys, because that would kill us. We will need to focus on the persons who are interested in making a constructive change of society. That's our focus.
Can you give some insight as to who those people are right now?
Actually, there is a company in Sweden called Sustainable Brand Index, and they categorize people based upon their sort of attitude towards climate change. You have one group is called Ego. That's mainly men, middle-aged men in the countryside. Perhaps I shouldn't be too. That's one group. You have another group called Moderate, and that's people say, okay, sustainability is interesting, but if I had to choose between two products, I would choose the ecological one, or I would choose a good one. Ecological is not always the best one, but I would choose the best one. And then you have one group called Smart, and the smart people say, okay, I want to make a good sustainable decision, and I want it to work with my everyday life. And you have this group called Dedicated, and Dedicated are these guys. Sustainability is the key, and that's prior to anything else. And this group is like 6%, and those are the guys already interested in sustainability, and that's great. And we will have a lot of people from this group active, but our focus will be the Smart group, because that's what we want to create, is a political mandate to make these kind of difficult decisions, which is difficult when you frame sustainability the way you frame it today. If you frame it in sort of where sustainability is constructive, where you can build a competitive edge as a company, where you could create a lifestyle which is attractive, then you would frame your communication, because you were talking earlier about communication and how you need to have sort of the right content. And of course, this is also a media project, because we would need to communicate in a way where we can sort of be in charge of the communication and how to. It's a marketing project as well,
right?
Of course,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, your biography is interesting because it's where you. Yeah. You started in interactive training.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're very comfortable with interaction and having a polysemy of voices and opinions. Yeah. I mean, and then you've been involved in different aspects of community development ever since. I guess Golf Access is a great example. Could you tell the audience about Golf Access?
Yeah, that's actually a travel agency for golf.
Right.
I'm not a great golfer myself, but I did like to go on golf travels, but I haven't been golfing for the last 5 years, or the last 7 years almost, because I have small children, and golf and small children is not a great combination. So sometime I would start playing golf again. Yeah.
Right. When was the last time?
I think the last time was like 7 years ago, something. Yeah. So I was a 10 handicap then, and I'm probably like 20 handicap now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then you were a serial entrepreneur. That's kind of how I introduced you. You co-founded Infotech with the same founder as Golf Access. Yeah. And that's a marketing agency.
Yeah. We have companies with marketing, and we were actually within the gambling part of the gambling industry, and of course, when you ask, would we have a casino on in Hubville or whatever the name will be, and I'm not sure, because I was interested in playing poker, live poker, because I think it's very interesting with the sort of the strategic parts and the reading of people and so on. But there are of course downsides in this kind of gambling if you get addicted to it.
Yeah.
So,
well, kind of what we've been seeing is that one of the things I have a little bit at odds with part of the gaming industry, particularly, is that you target kids with gambling.
Yeah.
And it isn't gambling to their parents, because they just think they're playing around with, in their game. But there's a lot of gambling, and these things are worth a lot of money. And it's kind of real, or even if it isn't real and you can buy them and trade them, it is real to these people. And it's kind of a shady way to create addiction, right, in people playing a certain thing. I mean, collecting things, I think that's good to happen. But there's a. I think as long as you're aware of it, as long as you're aware yourself that this is gambling, then it's fine, and you have the capacity to make a choice whether you want it or not in your life. Then it's completely fine. But it's a little bit shady.
Yeah, well, the issue is that not everyone has the capacity to know where to draw the limit, and that's sort of the problem. But we have new legislation in Sweden now from 1st of January, and perhaps that will make. I mean, for someone saying, I don't want to gamble, they could sort of lock themselves out of it. And I think that's good. Yeah.
What I found interesting about Infotech was that you were working with companies outside of Sweden.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. Work with this, but outside of Sweden.
Right,
yeah.
And then Golf Access was all about traveling the world with golf.
Yeah.
And here you are building a city.
Yeah.
How does that translate from having this global going out there?
It got so tired. It's like,
no.
God damn, I've seen all of the cities. Yeah. None of them is good enough. I'm going to build my own one.
Well, I've always been a child, sort of, playing with Lego. I think it's very interesting. I like to build something from nothing. But this is where I have my heart. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I think because. To build a company is interesting in lots of different aspects, but this is building something, and which is something that we have to do, and I think we will address this in a way which is perhaps the city will be there in a few years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything impossible with it. I know that a lot of people are gonna, would be, that's far, practical people. But yeah, and I agree with what you're saying there. One thing is, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really have that much other options. We're gonna have to try these things, and we're gonna have to do our best. And specifically, if we are even moderate, we should at least accept that we have to try. Because it's like, even if climate change is a hoax, I mean, even if everything is a lie, it's still safer to give it a try. And it's actually not that much of a problem. It's not that it's that huge of a cost. It's not that it's something we haven't done before. It's not like it isn't even something we're doing right now. We're building cities all over the world. So it's.
I would actually say, even though, which I'm pretty certain, and all the scientists are absolutely certain that climate change is a fact, and it's kind of alarming. It's more alarming than most people think it is. But even though it would be a hoax, this city would still be an attractive city to live in. So, and I think if you could frame it in if you could create a city which is attractive to live in, even though you would disregard climate change, then I think you have the sort of the key to the solution. And the thing is, I'm kind of a universal nerd. I was calculating initially. I was calculating on, okay, if we build the city and we purchase pasture land, and what would be the revenues on real estates, and if we would use the profits from real estates, would it be enough to build a hyperloop, or, this high speed, or perhaps a maglev high speed network, because it's sort of using this instead of aviation. And the calculations were actually, this city, 150,000 people, would actually finance a hyperloop between, sort of, if you would make it in Sunne, which is in Värmland in Sweden, it would actually finance this to connect this city to Sunne, to Stockholm, and to Malmö. And if you could connect it to Malmö, you could actually connect it to Denmark, and then you could connect it to Germany. And then you're not only talking about a city, then you're actually talking about a new nation, sort of. I mean,
right, redefining boundaries.
Yeah, and that would be because the thing is, if Sweden goes climate neutral, that wouldn't matter if the rest of the world keeps on doing the same thing.
Yes.
But the thing, what we want to do is create a role model or a format, and I think this format could. I mean, you have the listeners to this broadcast, and most of them are, a few of them are in the UK and Australia and so on. And of course, we want to create this same kind of format in other countries, and to create the political mandate to create a sustainable world, and it is possible.
Yeah, and I think and that's really what I want to enforce, and why I was kind of reading a little bit about it. I was excited about, because I feel this is one of the few ways to actually get people to understand. There's, I think, and we get a lot of people on here that are doing really amazing things, and we know that there is a revolution coming. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows there is really big things happening right now that we need to take into account. The problem is, from a political perspective, it's not. They don't get it yet, right? A lot of that is way behind still, and there's a lot of things that should have been done that is really hard to do now, that weren't done before. So, the kind of convincing, because you need everyone. You need to have a majority of the people in the country, or the believing in it. You need to have a political mandate, and you need to have mandate from the startups and also the established companies, particularly the companies who are already in power, and often they have less incentives to change anything. Right, so you really need to change a lot of things, and one of the best ways to change things is to actually show, because, and you said really quick there that which is something that you hear a lot, and when you're out there and hearing that, it's really important to face that. It's like, well, you know, if Sweden didn't do it, it wouldn't be enough. You said it in a positive way, but it's a very, very common, you know, well, if I don't do, you know, my neighbor doesn't do it, so it doesn't matter if I'm just a small drip in the ocean. And that's an attitude that can never drive change in any way, right? So it doesn't matter what other people do, right? It's what you do that kind of matters, right? And going with that, and this is kind of like a bigger example of how, okay, what can we actually do?
Yeah.
Well, we need to show people and drive on opinion. But if we're out there talking about it, it's not really going to change stuff. But if there is something concrete, look at this place.
Yeah.
They are doing it.
Yeah.
And yes, it's not perfect, but like you say, look how transparent they are. All of their information is open. They don't even have the access to change it themselves. This is a fully automated system of information that is, you know, living on the blockchain or whatever that anyone can see. Yeah. You can't lie about it. For instance, removing third persons and all, you're slowly gonna start to change people's minds. And I think that is really the only way. I mean, it's either that it started, or that we really start seeing floods and huge issues. By the time we really start seeing huge issues, I mean massive issues, it is too late. It's gonna be extremely hard to drive a change. It's very hard to drive a change when people are panicking. Right? That's not the time to change stuff.
Well, the thing is, actually, there are guys saying that it's too late, because we've passed some tipping points. But even though it would be too late, of course, there are kind of drastic measures in order to restore. But the thing is, even though it would be too late, just as a philosophical question, even though it would be too late, we could choose a way how to die. And that's an American philosopher called, I don't know his first name, Scranton. He's saying, okay, we could choose to have all these wars and so on, and people start behaving in a way which people behave when we have, you know, sort of a panic, or we could choose another way of sort of say goodbye to humanity. I think he could be right if we, in the pace of things as they are right now. But I think there's still hope. I'm sure it is. But another thing, you were talking about politicians, and I think that's interesting because I believe that the politicians, or especially politicians in Parliament, I think they know how the status of things, and I think they want to address this topic. And I think I'm sure that almost every politician knows this. I mean, from every party wants to do something good. That's my belief. But I think in the current climate, I think it's kind of difficult to. Politics is much about you have this slapstick, or you have to say things very, very quickly, and you need to explain things within 15 seconds. And to explain a topic like this, it would be easier. I mean, it's quite difficult. And the political climate in Sweden, and I think in most of the Western countries, I don't know about China. Well, I do know about China, but that's a different. It's not a democracy, but I think it lacks vision. You don't talk about the future. You don't talk about young people, how they feel. You talk about, when you talk about school, for instance, you don't think about AI, for instance. You don't talk about like in 10 or 20 years, you will be the work life, it will be completely different. Perhaps you won't have a job. So what is the purpose of school? You don't really take this into account, because you have this kind of surface
normalization.
But I mean, I agree, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to talk about, but it's their, fucking job. I mean, to a certain degree, if you are a politician and you want to change something, you're gonna have to be honest. And I don't think it's that hard to say these things. And there are politicians that do. We have kind of a lot of, at least, New Democratic Congress members that are saying really interesting things in the US, and there are a lot of people saying stuff, but it's not nearly enough, and it's often not those who are who should really see it, the people who are really high and have all of this information at their hands.
But it's also our responsibility as citizens,
Absolutely.
and we don't take that responsibility, and I think that's sort of we make it too easy. I mean, you can choose what kind of truth you want to align with, and that's a big problem.
And I gotta say also, I am a little bit unfair.
Okay.
Because it is hard. I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's really hard to be an unelected politician, for instance. It actually, everything you do in life is going to have its different challenges, but it is hard. And there's a lot of different alliances that you have made during a political life that you need to keep for, if you want to at least make sure you stay in power or be able to change something. Often we cannot change all of the things we want to change. We can only change one little thing. Typically, that's kind of how it works, and that's also part of democracy. It's not supposed to make drastical changes, but even so, like you talk about vision, there is and this is not something new. I think there's been talk about politics lacking vision globally for about 20 years soon, but there needs to be a new global and national vision. There we have, because the political landscape is completely different.
Yeah, but as an entrepreneur, that this kind of change doesn't come from within; it comes from outside. And I don't think politicians would take that kind of responsibility for themselves. I think that would be someone outside of the political establishment initiating that. That's what I think. I'm not sure. At least I think. Well, I think at least it's like this. Basically, if why do you want to become a politician if it isn't to drive and change the world? If you are a politician because you want to get rich, you should be in the wrong business. That's not what it is. And these are kind of things. If you have a mandate, based on people's belief in your ability to actually tackle the question and lead a country forwards. And the political sphere is not all of it. We have naturally the private companies and the civic society, and you have the law and all of that kind of political control, but still is, and you have the media and you have all of that stuff. But at the core of it all is our laws and our politicians and how they choose to portray, the challenges and drive a nation forward. They are the leaders. They are not omnipotent by no means, but they are leaders, and they need to take that responsibility a little bit more serious and a little bit more aggressive. And if you lose a lot of moderate votes because you do it, then so be it. You tried, and that's good. That at least you pushed something and you did your best.
Well, two questions. First of all, I want to know, how will this be financed, and also what regulations you're up against?
Let's start with the financial part. Well, the thing is, what we want to do now, to begin with, is to create a very strong movement of people. And if we create a strong movement, and we have, the commitment among people will of course be very different. Some people will say, okay, I sign up, I think this is an interesting idea, I will do nothing more than just signing up and support it. Some people will become ambassadors and helping to sort of create this city in different aspects. And some will say, okay, when this city is, I want to sign up. I want to live here. And when we have enough people, if we have 100,000 people saying, okay, I want to live here, and they sign up for it, and they make some kind of deposit or something similar. Of course, in that kind of instance, of course, it will be possible to finance the city. I think that's actually, I wouldn't say a no-brainer, but I think that's possible.
So it's a form of urban tax to a membership.
I mean, there will be different categories of people, of course, but or different categories of commitment. But when we have enough people to saying that we want to move into the city, of course, I don't think that the finance part will be so difficult. If you look at regulations, I think one thing is if you look, for instance, on plastics, you have people sorting plastics, and some people focus a lot of attention on straws, and you have McDonald's said the other day that they will stop with plastic straws, and that's great. But the thing is, if you look at a typical Swedish household, you have, I don't know, hundreds or tens of dozens of different kinds of plastic. And when you sort this plastic within one container, you can't sort it out, so you burn it. And the thing is, one regulation would be, okay, we have this for groceries or frozen food, and that's sort of the orange label plastic, and you have another for some other kind of whatever kind of goods, and you have 3 different kinds of plastic, and that's it. As a company, you would have to adapt to using these 3 kinds of plastic. Then it would be easy to reuse it or to recycle it. That's just perhaps we shouldn't have plastics at all, but I mean that's just. And I think if you look at if you continue with food, perhaps you should the VAT would be dependent on the carbon footprint or the climate footprint on if you buy beans, the VAT is maybe it's lower than if you purchase meat. Maybe if it is as you say that we will not have regular jobs in the future, perhaps we should have the taxation on the consumption instead of the labor. And then I also think you addressed the blockchain, and I think we would, in this kind of capturing sort of a new city, we would also need to have sort of an update on democracy. The current democracy, first you had the sort of the direct democracy in the old Greeks and so on, and then you have this populist kind of effects. You had the people could make decisions which would, you have Socrates, for instance, he was anyway, and then you now have the representative democracy, and we see the populist movement growing strong. And I think we need to update democracy so it would be more of, you would need to be held accountable for what you say, and maybe you should connect democracy and in some instances to science. And also I think we should have accountability on politicians in a way that if you use a blockchain, we have this hospital in Sweden, Karolinska, you had these enormous problems, and if you use a blockchain, if you use one of these blockchain programs, you can see who made the decision when, and you could very easily see who would be to be held accountable for it. So I think we would also develop a new kind of constitution.
Right. And by doing so, you basically have to trespass all regional and national boundaries along the way, overthrow. I mean, that's
thrilling, isn't
it? Why not? Right.
Yeah, but it is. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not undoable. Yeah. And like you say, I'm being a little bit hard on politicians here, but they need to get that something like this has to happen. And this is one of the things that they can say, hey, well, okay, not the whole country, but, okay, fine, you can try, and you will get these, you can do it this way, and you can say, and I think speaking of democracy, there's this huge lie that democracy, you can say and do whatever you want. It is never, that hasn't really been the fundamentals of democracy at all. And it is to a certain, that sounds beautiful, but a country or a society or a group of people is always funded on certain type of fundamental beliefs. And if you don't believe in them, you cannot really be a part of that society.
But what is the belief system today? What is the belief system? If you ask a typical 15-year-old or a 20-year-old, what's on their belief system connected to society? I mean, I believe quite a big piece of the population feels quite rootless and they mistrust. They don't have much hope for the future. And I think to create a hope, and to give people a belief system or to create a vision which you can aim towards, I think that would be very attractive.
I mean, it's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And it's and also it's important to, like you do there, to notice that a vision is always tied to a set of belief systems, right? Yeah. And it always, talks to each other in a way. And I mean, I am fortunate enough to hang out a lot on Twitch, and I always see what's going on in the general mentality and what's bubbling up. And this is kind of what we want to solve with the world's product as well. I'm a strong believer that you cannot grow up and develop empathy without being out and interacting with real human beings in real settings. We're still ancient animals, and our mirror neurons in our brain and part of the synapses that we need to build that doesn't just grow naturally, it just doesn't happen unless we practice them. And those kind of start building a belief system that also in turn makes us great people, and that's something that you need to grow hope right inside you in a certain way and work that muscle constantly. The brain is a muscle, right, that you work out, and you are not really who you are. In a sense, there was like this thing.
Define I am.
But to a certain extent, right? I remember, and I think this is the worst advice that a parent can give their kids. Like just be yourself, or stuff like that, and specifically in those years. And I think even when you grow older, you need to kind of decide who you want to be, and then be that person. That decision has to be something that you revise and revisit and see, am I reaching it, and what do I want to do, and who do I want to be?
And my question is, who are you in Hubville, or whatever the name of the city will be?
I mean, in the future or presently?
That's just an evolution.
Okay. So. In the future, I will probably be no one.
A resident.
A resident, yeah. Of course, I'll be a resident. But it's Hubble will be captured in a foundation, and the foundation is owned or by everybody or by nobody. So it would be every inhabitant in Hubble would of course have the same influence as I have. I want to get back to the empathy part because I think that's very interesting. I think if you look at climate change, even though you would say climate change is a hoax, you would at least see that the resource scarcity and if you look upon this topic as it's one nation against another nation. It's in Sweden we say that it's the Chinese, they would need to do this, and it's Americans and instead if you would say we need to address this topic together as a global community, then from an empathy perspective I think the result among people involved will be tremendous. I mean there is a big difference in empathy. And because empathy is also something that you develop. Right. It's not.
Can you be a resident of multiple cities?
I think if you're a resident in Hubville or whatever the name will be in the future, if you look upon it as a nation or with one constitution, of course you could reside anywhere. In Hubble, India, for instance, you have viewers from India. Perhaps you would like to join us to build Hubble India or Hubville Germany or Hubville, perhaps you will beat us in Sweden.
You're right.
I don't know.
Well, now's actually a good time to mention
it's a
that.
challenge.
Yeah, exactly. We have about 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
And
okay,
audience,
yeah.
if you have questions, now's the time to send them through.
Can you see
But
if they have a question?
I have. I've been checking. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
good.
very quiet, audience.
Yeah.
But how can they get involved?
Well, they could contact us.
Yeah.
Currently, we had a web page which was very detailed in different aspects, but we took it down, and now it's just a splash website. In order for, I mean, we have an idea how this site will look like, and in many aspects, but now it's just a splash website. It says info@hubville.org. To send me an email and so visit hubville.org. And of course, I'm kind of spoiled now because I'm very fortunate to meet people, which the kind of people I want to meet. I meet creative people. I meet people who wants to make something good. I meet intelligent people. And of course, if you want to join this community, don't hesitate to contact us, because any assistance is very welcome. And I think you would find this community very, very interesting, or especially if you are creative, if you want to make a difference, don't hesitate. Bling. You said something about bling.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
That was a nice ad.
Perhaps you
nice
fade
call.
out now.
Oh, wait,
Super.
well, actually,
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
With it, that's where it happens.
Yeah.
I feel like we should honor this moment.
Oh, yes.
Commemorate you with a World's Ball
Oh my God, here we go. The giveaway. Perfect. Beautiful sound effect.
Yeah. We'd like to award you with the World's Ball.
Thank you. Namaste. I've been very curious about this ball for quite a long time. I met with Maya, and she.
Can you?
To tell the audience who she is, but she introduced me to this ball half a year ago, and I'm very interested, and so I will definitely use this ball as soon as possible.
Use the balls.
Use the ball. Yeah.
Do we have some
This is
comments
how it
there
looks
that's
like.
readable?
Oh.
Oh, wow. Says Persian Palpy from Twitch.
Yes.
Wow.
Here we go. The
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to make the
With-
sound effects here. Like, make it.
Like literally, that's what
Yeah.
it says. Different
I mean,
numbers of W's
you've
and
been
O's.
practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I
Nice
try?
use of the bell larynx.
There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's you're just joining here at the very, very end of things.
Yeah.
Nah,
But it's just the beginning, really.
It is just beginning.
Really.
Also,
Welcome
you
to
can
the
always
city.
go back and
Yes,
watch the whole
in
stream. We've been
time.
talking about
Yeah.
so much interesting things.
Yeah, exactly. Facebook, talk to us. Say something.
Robert,
Yeah,
it's
say something.
yeah, but
It's okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Should we? I don't want to. I don't dare to continue because I'm always a person that just floats over time, and then Lee has to be like, no,
Yeah,
please
just
stop. Can you please focus
Stop.
your energy? I had one show here I did on my own. I had two actually, but one. How long did I think it was 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah,
realize
when I
an
wasn't
hour
there.
had gone by.
Yeah.
I was looking
Yeah.
at the clock. I'm like, what the whole
Yeah.
hour just passed?
Yeah.
And we were still talking about his childhood. I was like, oh my God.
So, if we
Paul.
were to meet
Sorry, Paul.
again in the city,
Yeah.
what would be the context?
I think since you play the guitar, I
Yes.
think we'll be in a restaurant. Perhaps you've been practicing the piano, and I'll be singing.
Nice.
Yeah.
there we go.
Wow,
So we
wow,
would
wow,
have sort of
wow,
a basic
wow.
session, and we would eat
Yeah.
something, and we'll have a
Okay.
great time.
Okay. Okay,
Sounds
there we
like a
go.
plan.
Yeah, it is a
sounds like
plan,
a
yeah.
very good
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to that. And of course, if you want to get in touch, info@hubville.org.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
Okay, and follow the Facebook page.
Yeah,
Do throw some love. 2 weeks away from relaunching the website and
It's
some
a
more
bit
news to
further.
come.
We start with we have an event in 2
Yeah.
weeks, or actually 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's a sort of a closed event.
Yeah.
But we're based upon a co-creation. So I mean, there will be lots of opportunities to influence how this city will look like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, so hopefully you release something from this mystery event to share with us all. Yeah. We have a special way of concluding the show. All right. This is a co-created ending. So we each place our index finger on that end button, and when we press that button, it's over. Okay.
That's how we close, and you can press any button because it's really funny.
Okay.
See what happens. Okay, no, don't do that.
Okay. All right. So time to say bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. See you again.
See you soon.